Hello, this is Nicole Kali, host of Haunted Mid-Atlantic Tales, and this is episode 13. Speaking of 13, on Saturday, the 13th, catch our Black Rockers United Black Rocker Roundtable with Kim Gill as moderator, me as co-host, special guest Meredith Bell of Palaceburn, Militia Vox, Judas Priestess, and Guitar Gabby of the Tulips Band. I hope that you enjoy this episode and our upcoming roundtable because, once again, there is never a missed opportunity to uplift women, especially black women, who always deserve the shine and have been spiritual leaders, vanguards, and pioneers in sound and spirituality. I want to highlight the Mid-Atlantic because there's a very rich history of folklore and music here. In African American communities, we pass on our stories in a multitude of ways. This is one of the ways that I found to pass on the stories of our heritage. You'll hear Palaceburn, more Militia Vox, DJ Kama, me, and awesome artists from the Mid-Atlantic. The Ghosts of Virginia by L.B. Taylor Jr. Chapter 3, Guardians of the Grave. Now, incredibly, in the annals of Southern folklore, there is yet a third episode of Animals That Guard a Grave. This is said to have happened near the small town of Guyando, West Virginia, a few years after the end of the Civil War. And unlike the other two incidences, is attested to be true by those that witnessed the phenomena. It has a different twist, has often been recounted, and is included in several analogies of Appalachian folk legends. When Tom Atkins returned home after being discharged from the Union Army, he began work again on the farm of his wife Lulu, who had ran it during the war. And in those harsh years, resentment still smoldered and bushwhackers occasionally roamed through the area. Thus, Tom was apprehensive when he found two armed strangers asleep in his barn one morning. When they awoke, instead of confronting them, though, he offered them breakfast. And impressed by the surprisingly pleasant greeting, one of the men, after they'd eaten, pulled a beautiful diamond-studded brooch from his pocket and presented it to Lulu. Who were these men? A few days later, word circulated that Frank and Jesse James, the notorious train and bank robbers, had held up a nearby bank. Ooh. Tom and Lulu could never confirm it, but they believed that they had hosted the James brothers that evening. Lulu treasured the jeweled brooch, wore it often, and because of its suspected great value, hid it securely at night. One evening, two men tried to break into the farmhouse to steal it, but Tom ran them off with a shotgun. When Tom died a few years later, Lulu continued to manage the farm by herself. One morning, when she went out to the barn, she found her pet pig with 6 little pigs around her. When they saw Lulu, they ran off into the woods again. She believed that they had lost their mother, a wild sow, and had come to her pet pig for nurturing. Lulu began to put out food for them, and over time, they became her true pets, with one unbreakable trait. Whenever a stranger approached the house, they attacked them. When a would-be thief came one day with the intent of stealing her brooch again, the now-grown pigs chased him up a tree and nipped at his heels, and he never tried that again. Eventually, Lulu's health failed, and she passed. She was buried next to her husband, with the brooch pinned on her blouse. A few weeks after she passed and the pet pigs returned to the woods again, a man walked up to her grave one dark night with bad intentions. It was reported that they guarded the grave again, and for several years after that, too. It has also been written that even after all the pigs had passed away, on a number of occasions, whenever intruders came near the cemetery, phantom pigs came and chased them away. Chapter 54, Ghost on Ghost Tours. No ghost at the party. No youthful trick-or-treaters show up at Sue or Jean Sereno's house in Lynchburg, Virginia. And that's partly because their house sits 100 yards back into the dark woods from the street, looking like a scene from the Blair Witch Project. Another reason might be that the couple believes their house might be haunted. We hear footsteps on the linoleum floor, both at night and in the daytime, Sue says in a newspaper, adding that they are unaccountable. There's also a door that mysteriously locks from the inside, at times causing anyone that's inside the room to have to climb out a window to escape. A radio in one bedroom turns off by itself, apparently signaling to the occupant that it's time to go to bed. One young man that experienced this said that when the radio shut off twice, he turned out the lights and felt something cold touch his cheek. Another unexplained phenomena concerns the plastic covering on the fluorescent light in the kitchen. It has been found several times wound up on the floor. Sue says that if it fell from that height, even if it had been securely fastened, it should have shattered. And then there are the phantom vehicles that approach the house. It's a little creepy, Jean says. These vehicles are from different centuries. There's a distinct sound of a car crunching the gravel in the driveway, sometimes accompanied by floating headlights, but no car is ever seen. And horses' hoofbeats are heard on other occasions, but no animal rider is there. Sue says the building was originally a farmhouse. Oh. And the owner used to ride their horse up to the barn every night. Just who creates all these manifestations has always remained a mystery. Nearly the past 30 years, the Serenos have hosted a Halloween party, but Sue says the ghosts don't come. I think there's too much noise for them, she says. They're shy. Chapter 89, A Portfolio of Psychic Poetry. The Curse of the Ancient Door. A poem excerpted from the 1920s, the work of Frank Manhart, and originally published in Richmond, has a ringing similarity in tone to Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Here within my mansion sitting, while I count the hours a flitting, that will bring the light of morn. Each night in my chamber roomy, everything seems dark and gloomy, gloomy to a soul that's torn. Though my roof is tempest-worthy, though my walls are strong and sturdy, strong as they've ever been. Every wind that's outside shrieking is forever madly seeking to come breaking in. Though I lock my great door nightly, though I latch each window tightly, when the storms begin to roar, each torrent that is gushing seems forever to be rushing through the ancient door. How my teeth begin to chatter, and I hear some footsteps patter through my ancient door. But the door is open never. 'Tis a sound that haunts me ever, and a sound that I've heard before. Hush, I hear the old box squeaking, and I hear the hinges creaking. I'll not stir from out my chair. 7 long years while reposing, I've heard that door open closing, but no one is ever there. Chapter 106, Historic Haunts from the Past. The end is near. Many Virginians in the 18th and 19th century were deeply superstitious and had weird beliefs, as exemplified by the following cases. The first involves signs, and it was recorded by W.A. Byerly on April 20th, 1937, about an event that occurred more than 100 years before that, at the Joe Byerly home, located just southeast of Bridgewater. Granddaddy Byerly operated his flour and grist mill. In the fall of 1833, during the meteoric shower, he decided that the end of the world was near. And at 11 o'clock, he closed the mill, woke his wife and children, read the Bible, and prayed until dawn. But the Lord fooled them. So they all lived and died a natural death. That was 104 years ago. They're all still waiting for the judgment.
I'm standing there looking at it, and all of a sudden, it forms my grandfather. I don't know if to be scared. I don't know if to embrace it. I don't know what to do. I'm so startled because I'm a little kid. And then he says,
I'm the one who's going to watch over you.
Some believe that the legendary author died of too much drink or drugs. Edgar Allan Poe was born in Boston in 1809, but he considered Baltimore his home.
Haunted Places, the National Directory. Delaware. Milford Neck. Milford Neck Wildlife Area has Native American spirits, and the tales go back at least 2 centuries. The Island Field site here contains 100 exposed graves, thought to be 1,200 years old, the ancestors of the lineage Lenape. And in 1972, the site was exorcised by a Native American princess, but the continued display of the graves angers the Native American spirits even more. Milford Neck is north of Milford, between Highway 113 and Big Stone Beach, 20 miles south of Dover. New Lebanon. Shaker buildings. The ghosts of a strict sect of Quakers who built a community of 20 buildings here in the 1800s still roam the grounds. The last Shaker members left the area in the 1940s, and their old settlement became a summer camp. A Sufi spiritual sect acquired the land in 1975 and set up the abode of the Message Center in the eastern half of the compound. The westernmost buildings are used by a private high school called the Darrow School. Both of the new tenants have been visited by the peaceful spirits of the Shakers that once lived there. The ghost of a woman wearing an apron is seen in the ruins of a carriage house near the school, and the Sufis have sensed the presence of many spirits from the days when the celibate non-materialistic Shakers lived in those buildings that are located on a dirt road that leads off of US Highway 20, about 30 miles east of Albany and 6 miles west of Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Niagara Falls. The spirits of these magnificent falls are sensed near the Three Sisters, 3 tiny islands at the west edge of Goat Island. Iroquois shamans and overall citizens made sacrifices of food and goods at the Three Sisters and communed with the great spirit of the Thunder Waters. Modern psychics say that anyone can hear the voices of the Iroquois here if they listen carefully. Follow I-90 to I-190 over Grand Island to the Robert Moses Parkway, and follow the signs to the falls. North Carolina. Hey, Thorne. Raleigh, the Executive Mansion. In 1970, Governor Bob Scott decided to replace the massive old wooden bed with a modern king-size bed. He moved the old bed, which had been built in 1891, to the precise specifications of Governor Daniel Fowle, to a little-used room on the 3rd floor. Fowle had passed away in the bed when he was still governor, and some have suggested that his spirit still remains there. Soon, strange rapping sounds were heard coming from the wall where the headboard of Fowle's bed had been put. The persistent knocking started around 10 p.m., increased in frequency, and did not cease until late at night. The timely rapping continued until the rest of Bob Scott's administration, and he admitted that his family had nicknamed the poltergeist Governor Fowle's ghost. The phenomenon promptly ceased when a new administration took over, and Fowle's bed was moved back to the 2nd floor. Mordecai Manor. Built in 1785 by Joel Lane, this house is named for Moses Mordecai, who married Lane's daughter Ellen. The old manor house is said to be haunted by a woman in a long black pleated skirt, wearing a white blouse and a black tie. The 2-story mansion with a balcony on the 2nd level is located on Mordecai Square on Mimosa Street in Raleigh. My birth state. I was born in Chambersburg. Canadensis, the Pines Hotel. A tall, well-dressed gentleman has confronted the maid to clean the cottages here. The hotel was built in 1908, but it surrounds a beautiful old graveyard. The Pines Hotel is built on Evergreen Road in Canadensis, Pennsylvania. East Stroudsburg University. A mysterious icy-cold presence is blamed for the strange phenomena that happen in the fine arts of the Performing Center at the university. Campus police keep a log of the displaced objects, defaced name plaques, and the disembodied voices that plague the auditorium. Hawthorne Residence Hall is said to be haunted by another unidentified presence. Philadelphia. Belmont House. This 4-story house was once part of the clubhouse of the Belmont racetrack, which was built in the late 1800s, but when the racetrack shut down, the clubhouse was moved in 2 pieces, which became large homes next to one another. Later, this house functioned as a brothel, and former residents have reported an apparition of a young woman wearing dark clothing for that time, who ascends the staircase to a 3rd-floor bedroom. Marion Station is a suburb of Philadelphia, and Belmont House is a private residence in Marion. Pittsburgh. Kirkhouse. The ghost of a man has been reported looking out the front window here. In the corner of the window is a signature written with a diamond. James Kirk was general auditor of the Baltimore and the Ohio Railroad when he built this wood frame house in 1885. The house is an exact replica of his wife's childhood home in Baltimore. Today, his spirit stares out the window at the old railroad tracks. Kirkhouse is in Glenshaw, a suburb of Pittsburgh, in Allegheny County, at a private residence, 1001 Glenshaw Avenue. Virginia, Charlottesville, Ashland. President James Monroe haunts his former home. The rocking chair of the president has often been seen rocking slowly, with nobody sitting there. The house became a museum, and the embarrassing chair was locked away in storage. It hasn't bothered anyone since. Charlottesville is in Albemarle County, in central VA, at the junction of I-64 and US Highway 29. Petersburg. Dodson's Tavern. This house was built in 1753 by John Dodson and remained in the family until 1972, when Colonel John Cargill Pegram died at the age of 91. The ghost of the colonel has returned to make sure his ancestral home is taken care of. Burglar alarms go off for no reason at all, and books from Pegram's extensive library found about the room, as if he's still reading them. The restored tavern is at 311 High Street, Petersburg. Haunted Virginia. Chapter 19. Mothman's appearance in Prince William County. The Mothman is a being seen in West Virginia, around Charleston and Point Pleasant, mainly between November 12, 1966 and December 1967. For 13 months, the entire town of Point Pleasant lived in the grip of dark terror, culminating in a tragedy that made headlines all around the world. Most observers describe the creature as the size of a person, with reflective red eyes and large moth-like wings. A number of hypotheses have been presented to explain eyewitness accounts, ranging from misidentification to paranormal phenomena and conspiracy theories. It all began on November 12, 1966, when two young married couples from Point Pleasant, David and Linda Scarberry, and Stephen and Mary Mallett, traveled late at night in the Scarberry's car. They had just passed the West Virginia Ordnance Works, an abandoned World War II TNT factory, when they noticed two red lights in the shadows next to an old generator plant near the factory gate. Stopping the car, they discovered that the lights actually were the glowing red eyes of an animal. Shaped like a person but bigger, it stood maybe 6.5 to 7 feet tall, with wings folded against its back. Terrified, they raced towards Route 62, where the creature followed them at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. Others ran into the monster until the famed December 15, 1967 collapse of the Silver Bridge over the Ohio River. There are claims that the Mothman is related to parapsychological events, including UFOs, the Men in Black, poltergeist, Bigfoot, and more. One of the early theories is that Mothman was a misidentified sandhill crane, which in the late 1960s would have been a problem in the surrounding area. Sandhill cranes can reach a height of 6 to 7 feet. Wingspans of 10 feet have the general appearance of a Mothman and glide for long distances. Other theories suggest that the possibility was a barn owl or perhaps a large snowy owl. But what does this have to do with Virginia? Well, it seems that the state had its own Mothman experience. One Arlington businessman was in the company of 3 friends during the winter of 68 to 69 in Prince William County at a farm near Haymarket. They heard a peculiar noise and decided to investigate. Horrified, they found a large creature with red-orange eyeballs and wings. They bolted, not looking back. Today, there is still fascination with the Mothman. In Point Pleasant, there's even a museum. The museum's website has supposedly references and online similarities between the Mothman and the Thunderbird of Native American legend, like Louisa. So next time you're driving at night, whether in West Virginia or Virginia, and you see something by the side of the road, just keep on driving. Don't look back. The Mothman might be following you.